In 1996, two former Microsoft employees started a game studio above a pizza restaurant. They wanted to make one game. What they built instead was the infrastructure that PC gaming runs on. A platform so dominant that 74% of all PC game sales flow through it today. A company that generates $16 billion in revenue, with no traditional CEO, no management hierarchy, and a president named Gabe Newell, who has run it that way since the beginning. This is the history of Valve and Steam. Valve Corporation was founded in 1996 by Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington, both former Microsoft employees who had worked on the Windows operating system. They founded the company with a specific goal: make one great game. Newell and Harrington licensed the Quake engine from ID Software and spent 2 years building their debut title. Half-Life launched November 19, 1998. A first-person shooter set in the Black Mesa Research Facility, a government research complex where a science experiment goes catastrophically wrong. Half-Life sold over 9 million copies across its commercial lifetime. It won over 50 Game of the Year awards, more than any game had received at that point. It redefined what a first-person shooter could be narratively. No cutscenes, no breaks in perspective. Story delivered entirely through the world and the characters you encountered inside it. What made Half-Life structurally significant wasn't just the gameplay, it was what it enabled. Half-Life shipped with a modding toolkit. Players could build their own levels, modify weapons, and create entirely new game modes using the same engine Valve had built the game on. The toolkit produced Counter-Strike in 1999, a mod built by Min Lee and Jess Cliff, that Valve eventually acquired and published as a standalone product. Counter-Strike became the most played PC game in the world. A mod built by two people on top of a Valve game became the foundation of modern competitive gaming. For players in 1998, Half-Life felt like a rapture, a shooter that trusted you to pay attention, a world that felt coherent rather than constructed, a game that took the medium seriously as a storytelling form. Half-Life 2 was in development. The anticipation was unprecedented, but before it arrived, something else happened that changed PC gaming permanently. In 2003, Valve launched Steam. Steam launched September 12, 2003. The initial reception was almost universally negative. Steam was introduced as a mandatory requirement to play Counter-Strike, the most popular PC game in the world at the time. Players who had been playing Counter-Strike through direct server connections were suddenly required to install and authenticate through a new platform they hadn't asked for. The complaints were immediate. The platform was slow, downloads failed, authentication servers went offline. The mandatory nature of the requirement, you couldn't play Counter-Strike without Steam, was widely criticized as anti-consumer. Then Half-Life 2 launched November 16, 2004, and Steam became inescapable. The most anticipated PC game in years required Steam authentication. On launch day, the servers struggled under the load. Players who had purchased physical copies couldn't play until Steam authenticated their disc. Despite the hostile reception, the underlying logic of Steam was sound. Digital distribution eliminated manufacturing and shipping costs. Automatic updates removed the patch download and install process that had defined PC gaming maintenance. A centralized library tied purchases to an account rather than a disk. If you lost a disk, the game was gone. If you lost your Steam account credentials, the game could be recovered. By 2005, Steam had added a storefront. Players could purchase games digitally rather than through retail. The first Steam sale ran in 2004, discounting Half-Life and its expansions. The model that would eventually generate $876 million in a single 2-week sale period, had begun with a handful of Valve titles. By 2007, Steam had 15 million registered accounts and a growing library of third-party titles. Players who resented Steam in 2003 largely stayed. Counter-Strike required it. Half-Life 2 required it. The network effect of having your games in one place, visible to friends, trackable through hours played, updatable automatically, gradually made the platform feel essential rather than imposed. Valve had built a platform. Now they needed to build the audience that would make it indispensable. Portal, Team Fortress 2, Left 4 Dead, and a bundle that changed digital distribution forever. In October 2007, Valve released the Orange Box. 5 games, 1 price, $49.99. Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1 and 2, Team Fortress 2, and Portal. The Orange Box became one of the highest rated game compilations ever released. A Metacritic score of 96 on PC. Portal, a first-person puzzle game built by a small team from a student project, became one of the most celebrated games Valve had ever shipped. Team Fortress 2 launched as a paid game before transitioning to free-to-play in June 2011, demonstrating that the free-to-play model could work for an established franchise and significantly expanding the Steam user base. Left 4 Dead, a cooperative zombie shooter, became one of the first games to use Steam's social infrastructure as a core gameplay element. Playing with friends wasn't an afterthought, it was the design. The Steam Summer Sale launched in its modern form in 2009, rotating daily deals, deep discounts across a growing library. Players began planning purchases around sale windows. The Steam Sale became a cultural event. The Steam platform grew through 3 reinforcing mechanisms during this period. First, exclusive Valve titles drove platform adoption. You couldn't play Portal or Left 4 Dead without Steam. Second, third-party developers recognized the distribution advantage. Steam offered reach, discovery tools, and a payment infrastructure that no other PC platform could match. The library grew from hundreds to thousands of titles. Third, the Steam Workshop launched in 2011, allowing players to create, share, and sell user-generated content directly through the platform. Modding, which had always existed in gaming, was formalized into an economic system. Popular workshop items generated revenue for their creators through a revenue-sharing model. By 2012, Steam had 40 million registered accounts. The platform had moved from a mandatory authentication tool into the default destination for PC gaming. The Steam sale created a specific player behavior that hadn't existed before. Backlogs, wishlists, purchases made not because you planned to play a game immediately, but because the discount made ownership feel rational. Steam didn't just distribute games, it created a relationship between players and libraries. But the platform's growth was about to accelerate beyond anything the 2007 library could have projected. Greenlight, Early Access, and a market share that left every competitor behind. In 2012, Valve launched Steam Greenlight, a community voting system that allowed players to decide which independent games would be accepted onto the platform. Before Greenlight, Steam curation was controlled entirely by Valve, a small team making individual decisions about which games deserved distribution. The backlog of developer submissions had become unmanageable. Greenlight outsourced that curation to the community. The system had problems: vote manipulation, submission fees that were donated to charity but still created a barrier, inconsistent results where popular games were rejected and these titles were accepted. Greenlight was replaced in 2017 by Steam Direct, a simplified submission process with a flat $100 fee per game. making the platform effectively open to any developer willing to pay. Early Access launched in March 2013, allowing developers to sell unfinished games directly to players, using player revenue and feedback to fund continued development. Minecraft had demonstrated the model independently. Steam Early Access formalized it as a platform feature. Titles like DayZ, Rust, Kerbal Space Program, and eventually Hades used Early Access to build communities before launch. The model wasn't without risk. Abandoned Early Access titles became a category of their own, but the successes demonstrated that players would pay for access to development. The combination of Steam Direct and Early Access transformed the indie game market. In 2013, approximately 565 games were released on Steam. By 2017, 6,797 games were released in a single year. By 2024, 18,626 new titles were added in 12 months. Steam's game library expanded to over 120,000 titles. The discovery problem became the new challenge. With tens of thousands of games available, individual titles could be buried within weeks of release. Valve's algorithm, which weighed recent views, concurrent players, and wishlist conversions, became the primary gatekeeper for visibility. The indie revolution on Steam produced games that wouldn't have existed under any previous distribution model. Stardew Valley, built by a single developer over 4 years, sold over 30 million copies through Steam. Hollow Knight, made by a 3-person team, became one of the most celebrated action platformers of its generation. Undertale, Celeste, Hades. Steam Scale gave small teams access to the Steam storefront as AAA publishers. The platform didn't guarantee success, but it made it structurally possible. By 2018, Steam's dominance was so complete that competitors had effectively stopped trying to challenge it on its own terms. Epic Games tried anyway, with a 12% revenue share and exclusive deals, and a store that Steam users boycotted in large numbers. In December 2018, Epic Games launched the Epic Games Store, a direct competitor to Steam. Where Steam takes a 30% cut of every sale, Epic took only 12%, meaning developers kept 88% of their revenue instead of 70%. Exclusive deals kept major titles of Steam for 12-month windows. The Epic Games Store was a genuine competitive challenge built on a sound economic argument. Developers received significantly more revenue per sale. Player response was largely hostile. The absence of Steam features like reviews, community hubs, workshop, and achievement systems made the Epic Store feel incomplete. Free weekly games attracted account registrations, but active users remained significantly lower than Steam's base. Valve holds 74% share of the global PC gaming digital distribution market as of 2026, a figure that has remained stable despite the Epic challenge. In February 2022, Valve launched the Steam Deck, a handheld PC running SteamOS, Linux-based, designed to play the entire Steam library in a portable format. Steam Deck lifetime sales reached 4 million units, with Q1 2026 sales of 950,000 units. The scale of Steam in 2025 and 2026 is difficult to contextualize against anything else in PC gaming. Steam reached 41.81 million concurrent users on January 11, 2026, a historic peak for the platform. The platform generated $16.2 billion in revenue through November 2025, a 50% increase compared to full year 2024. 147 million monthly active users as of Q1 2025, with 69 million logging in daily. Valve's 30% commission yielded over $4 billion in direct earnings in 2025. Valve itself employs approximately 350 people, generating more revenue per employee than almost any company in the world. Valve's flat structure remains as unusual as it has always been. No traditional hierarchy, no CEO title, a president, Gabe Newell, who has led the company without conventional management layers since 1996. Employees choose their own projects by moving their desks to different teams. Half-Life 3 has never been announced. Valve's game development output slowed dramatically after 2013. The company that started as a game studio now derives the overwhelming majority of its revenue from a platform. Whether that represents success or creative stagnation depends entirely on what you think Valve was supposed to be. A game studio that built a platform, or a platform that used to make games. From two former Microsoft employees above a pizza restaurant in 1996 to a platform handling $16 billion in annual revenue in 2025. Valve didn't set out to build the infrastructure of PC gaming. They set out to make one great game. Half-Life led to Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike required Steam. Steam required Half-Life 2. Half-Life 2 proved digital distribution could work. The Orange Box proved Valve could still make great games while running a platform. And Steam proved that owning the distribution layer was worth more than anything any individual game could generate. 74% of all PC game sales, 147 million monthly active players, $16 billion in a single year, all of it running inside the company with no traditional CEO, roughly 350 employees, and a president who has never once announced Half-Life 3. The platform it helped create is the closest thing PC gaming has to an operating system, and that's what Valve actually built.